Man, oh man, oh man, what another exciting episode of Small Camera Big Picture with Chip Riggs.
Well, what's up?
What's up is me. I'm standing today. I have my standing desk elevated, so I'm not sitting on the yoga ball.
Nice.
Yeah. I am the host, Giulio Sciorio, because that's who I am. I don't know who else I would be. We're talking about Micro Four Thirds, and in fact, we're talking about this nonsense that this has been happening for years. So don't think it's new, okay? Because it ain't new. But people, it's Micro Four Thirds is dead. I've been saying that for years. And no, Micro Four Thirds is not dead. It's not dead. There may be photographers that trying to be nice to them, but are ignorant and don't know any better. To them, it's dead, or they need to have a camera they put over their shoulder because it's going to help them feel better. Whatever. Sorry, I have a soft spot in my heart for Micro Four Thirds. So we're going to talk about why people think it's dead. Why would they think it's dead? We have some ideas, and then basically, what's the proof that it's not dead? In fact, it's not even. It's like doing really good, actually, if you kind of look at it with a realistic perspective, and then where it could potentially go as a system. And there are some really exciting things that are happening. And then I'm going to talk about something that I developed specifically for Micro Four Thirds photographers that'll help you get more out of your sensor. And because everyone's talking about the friggin' sensor, and it's like it's so much more than a sensor. Shavasana. Okay. Shavasana. Okay. So, Chip, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
We just got back from New York yesterday, so little vacation, pretty good.
Cool. Did you actually like New York City or just like the state?
We were in Brooklyn actually.
Nice.
For the majority of it, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, went up to see a couple of bands play and hung out with some friends, so it was a good time.
Yeah, Brooklyn's rad. I've been up there quite a few times.
Good stuff.
Yeah, is it just me, or when you leave New York, do you always feel like your clothing and everything got worn down at a much faster pace than normal?
I always feel like every time we get back to where we were staying, it was like, hey, I got to go take a shower.
Well, right. But I mean, I do too, but I always call that what I call travel schmeg. But beyond the usual travel schmeg, are you saying that you have additional schmutz on your person?
Oh yeah. You just feel run down.
Big city run down.
Yeah, fully. And I mean, we didn't even go into Manhattan. We just stayed on Brooklyn pretty much the whole time. So, on the island there. So it was good though. I mean, I brought my GM1, shout out to Panasonic, and brought my Olympus Trip 35, shot a little 35 millimeter film. So all good. Went to go see my man Basquiat in the cemetery there. So that was a good time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man, I'm like, oh yeah, New York, yeah.
Oh, it's pretty awesome. I couldn't handle living there, but it's awesome to visit.
I feel the same way. I think my 20-something-year-old single dude could totally do it, but anybody that asks me, that's my advice. Go in there while you're young, put your time in, climb, bust your butt, and then you can go be chill at other places if you want. But for some people, it's exciting. I just when I was there last, I waited 45 minutes in line at Whole Foods to buy like a protein bar and a juice. And I'm like, nah.
Yeah, we tried to go to Roberta's to get pizza, and we walked in and they're like, it's a 2-hour wait. And we're like, okay, thank you.
And that is what you call a New York minute.
Exactly.
So, well, welcome back.
Thanks.
Welcome back. That's cool. I'll be going to Seattle in July for my birthday, and actually, the real reason is my wife is an officiant for a wedding, which will be cool.
Awesome. Seattle's super rad.
It is. I think I may pop in the Glazer's camera and say hello. I was thinking about actually doing a photo walk, but we're kind of getting close on time, so I'd be like, I don't know. But if anyone's listening and you want to hang out while I'm in Seattle, drop me a line. Maybe we can go do a quick photo walk or something.
Cool.
It'll be fun. All right, so let's get back onto the show. So why are people saying that Micro Four Thirds is dead? I mean, what the hell?
I think for a lot of people, they view it as a small system, and they feel now that where the cell phones are at, the Pixel and the iPhone, they're like, this is enough. And if I'm going to carry a small camera, I'm just going to carry my phone, because they'll have it with them anyway.
Are you talking about like the regular consumers that may potentially buy a camera?
No, I mean, I actually think that for a certain level of photographer, I think that might be where they're at. They're like, I have this with me. Why should I bother if I'm going to carry a small camera? Because I think a lot of people got into Micro Four Thirds as a secondary kit. I know that was kind of my intro into it. And so, they started with that because it was a smaller camera, and then they just decided, to kind of go with that. But I think with the cell phones getting better and better, I think I had a iPhone 4 when I bought my first Micro Four Thirds, or a 3GS or something like that. So, it wasn't really near the quality that I could get out of the GF1 that I had at the time, which I still use actually to this day. But, I think that was kind of the deal. They just kind of started moving away from those because they have their Pro camera, which is like, a DSLR, or now like a full frame mirrorless. And, the Micro Four Thirds has kind of gone to the wayside.
Right. It's interesting. I said this year I was not going to get a new iPhone because I get one every year through the Apple thing. I'm like, I'm going to keep my iPhone X. It's great. Because I got my iPhone X, I'm like, this is going to be my only camera. It's supposed to, so, I'm a sucker for those keynotes. I'm just like, when Johnny Ives voiceover, I'm like, okay, Johnny, whatever you say. And then I get it, and I'm like, oh, this is friggin' awesome. And then actually, I calm the hell down. I look at the photos. I'm like, oh, it's a really good smartphone camera. Period.
Yeah, totally.
I got the gimbal, dude. I got a gimbal in my closet. I was actually just chatting with Jeff Newton. He's like, oh, I got this gimbal robot thing from Firefly or whatever they're called. And it's $300. I don't think I can buy it though. And, he's like, my buddy loaned it to me because he used it once in a year. And I'm like, I have the Smooth 4. I used it one time in over a year, but it's like this, I think that with smartphones, man, once people start to look, it's just like, I don't know. It's just like they age so quick, smartphone photos.
Totally. Yeah. And for me, I use mine primarily for as like a note-taking device. So if I see something, or, if I see an image as I'm walking around, I'll see something, I'll be like, and I don't have my regular camera, I want to come back to this, I'll take a shot of it. I can look back and see where it's at. I do a lot of design work, so I might see some cool type somewhere. I'll shoot that. The nice thing is it, backs up over the cloud. Everything's there. No big deal. Go to my desktop, which I still have a desktop. Kind of tells you where I'm at. But, that's kind of my primary place that I use the smartphone. I do occasionally take a photo with it that I'm happy with. But for the most part, it's a note-taking device for me.
For me, it's been kind of like that. Like, where did I park? I'll take a picture of the parking thing, and I do a lot of videos and stuff with my son just because I can quickly share it with my family, and also because if I'm using like a Fuji processing X-Trans files and Camera Raw, which is my preferred RAW processor. I've come to peace with that finally, but it's like it's not so easy, right? But like I went back recently as I was developing my Dynapac Mark I profile pack, and specifically for Micro Four Thirds, and I was processing files from the EM5, the original one that I shot a ton of assignments on. And I'm like, dude, these files look so freaking good. And when did that camera come out? Like 2011 or something?
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm like, dude, maybe I'm thinking about picking one up for like $250 on eBay. And I'm like, they're still good and they're small. And yeah.
Go for that Mark II. Go for that Mark II.
I would definitely would. I'm definitely looking at that actually. But I'm actually, before, we're kind of veering off track here, but I'm actually looking at the silver OMD EM1 Mark II. I think it just looks baller. And I'm like, plus I could do video with it, and I could probably drive a nail into wood, and if I ever needed to, or, it's, it's kind of like, it seems like it's built really well. But you know what I really like about that body in particular? The strap eyelet, and where the grip points up, it doesn't stick into your hand.
Nice.
So many cameras, I think actually like every camera except for that one, the strap eyelet sticks in your hand. And I'm like, dude, this camera weighs like a quarter of a pound. Why do you have this massive piece of metal sticking out of the side for the strap eyelet on the grip when it sticks you in the hand? And when I had my Lumix GX8, I actually put a screwdriver in those things. I busted them off. I mean, just cameras are so small. Take those strap lugs. Well, it's there because it gives us an appearance of quality. I'm like, but the camera is quality. You don't need to have a stupid strap lug sticking me in the hand. Anyways, Olympus went boop, and I pointed it up. I'm like, it's freaking brilliant. It's brilliant. So I can actually hold the thing. But anyways, let's move on. So why are people thinking Micro Four Thirds is dead? Well, a lot of people using their smartphones. Okay, yeah, I got it. What about the public perception of full frame cameras? And some full frame cameras have a similar cost to Micro Four Thirds cameras, but they're different cameras. Let's just talk, for real. But there's that. I call them the full frame zombies. They're just kind of like, what kind of pictures I like to take? Full frame. Like, okay, cool. How do you get into photography? Full frame. Why do you want a full frame? Full frame. Like, I believe me, God bless them. I've had people like that in my photo walks.
It's the spaceman from the Lego movie. Spaceship.
Yeah, they don't know why they want full frame. They don't know why. They just want it full frame. They're sharing their photos where? On Instagram. And they want a full frame. Or even some of the people now that are like totally stuck in this gear mindset, they are looking at medium format. And medium format's cool too. I mean, all this stuff's cool, but it's just like, how is a full frame camera going to make somebody a better photographer? It's not.
Nope.
It's just not. It's like when Jamie McDonald was on here a few weeks ago, where like, people think the grass is greener on the other side. It's just a different kind of grass. You got Bermuda grass and you got other kinds of grass. It's just kind of a different kind of grass, and it's like this idea of like, I got to have full frame. Like, that's cool. So maybe the camera's the same size, because Sony makes them ridiculously small. So maybe it's the same size as a Panasonic or an Olympus, but they're different types of cameras because the technology in them is fundamentally different, not including the sensor being a single part of the camera that ignorant YouTubers just like dive in on, right? So they just want full frame. And then it's like, cool, well, then you're going to buy this camera, then you buy a decent lens, because the lens makes a huge difference, and the lenses are gigantic for full frame. They have to be big to cover that image circle, just like medium format, they got to be bigger. So, I'm sorry, I'm kind of Shavasana. Come back to my Shavasana. I love the Micro Four Thirds system, and I go to bat for it, but all the time. But what about late last year? Let's talk about late last year briefly, the announcements, or the lack of.
Kick in the pants.
The kick in the pants, and then a lack of, for a while there, of a friend being like, I'm gonna come help you out. So for a while there, Olympus wasn't really announcing anything. They were quiet, and everyone's like, "What's going on? What's going on?" There's a rumor of a full frame Panasonic coming. No, Olympus isn't saying anything. I think they may have had maybe a small announcement here or there. Then nothing. And then Panasonic's like, everyone's ready for like a Micro Four Thirds, like a GH6 or something. And they're like, nothing. Full frame this, bam. Full frame that, boom. It's bigger than normal full frame cameras. It's more expensive than most full frame cameras. Oh, and then for Micro Four Thirds, if you want a lens, here's a really rad lens, and it's a rad lens at 10 to 25 Leica f1.7 zoom, and it's like $2,000 or something like that.
But at that point, it was all vaporware. I mean, that lens didn't really even exist at the trade shows and whatnot. They had like a foam core mock-up of it. It wasn't even the real deal.
Right. So they did that right before the holiday season. Basically, this is what we're going to come out with next year, Don't buy what we have in stock today. And that sent a message to me. I'm just like, dude, I think the brand is confused. So I can see people being like, dude, Panasonic just abandoned Micro Four Thirds, because to them that don't to people that don't dive into the industry like we do, I could totally understand why they would see that. And Olympus was quiet because they were working on a real statement. And now Panasonic came back and they were like, basically, they said in a press release, no, we're committed. And that was basically it. And then they released something recently, a G95 or something. But no one's, I don't think I think the camera buying public is maybe minus the hardcore Micro Four Thirds people like myself or those that are in the industry. I think the average buying public is kind of like, oh, Panasonic's now the full frame company. So I could see why that would confuse people. And then, of course, we have the YouTubers. And I say YouTubers because most YouTubers are not photographers. That's okay. I mean, you can be a technician. You could be an artist. I lean on the artist side heavily. That maybe I have stuff on YouTube. But there's YouTubers that are like, we're going to talk about the photo industry. We're not going to go on and actually take pictures much. Or we're just going to talk about tech. And you see these people, and they probably know a lot more about tech than we do, but that don't make a good photo, does it?
Not usually.
What was your takeaway with the videos that you saw?
For me, a lot of the technical information was pretty on point, kind of following that as much as I do, but I don't know, to me, it was a situation of them saying, it's going to die. And in my mind, I just think it's going to be around for a long time. And the camera is still going to take a great photo today. And it's still going to probably take a great photo 5 years from now, unless you drop it in a lake.
Yeah, that's kind of like my thought as well. I think the YouTubers are going for like the quick hits, getting people all worked up. And the timing of it, of course, was good for the YouTubers that really know how to make their YouTube videos, but it wasn't really accurate. And then on top of that, you have a large part of these younger photographers that, stretching that word photography. A lot of these young camera technicians that are into photography, but they're really into the tech. And I saw one commenter, they're like, Micro Four Thirds gets a quarter of the light of full frame. I'm like, how is that possible? How is that possible? It's like, well, people don't here. Let's just set the record straight for reals. I mean, I think I know the system pretty damn well, and I value my skills as a photographer. I've done a few things, but if a lens is f1.8 on any camera, it lets in f1.8 value of light. Period. If it's an f1.8 on your iPhone, it's then letting in f1.8. It's a standardized measurement. It's like saying you have a gallon of water in a bag weighs more than a gallon of water in a jar or something. It's still a gallon of friggin' water. Okay, f1.8 is f1.8. The difference is that the smaller sensors give you more depth of field, and the larger sensors give you less depth of field or more shallow depth of field. That is it in a nutshell. That's it. I just don't understand why people make it so damn complicated, and then they like, no, blah, 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 a quarter of a light. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, please. Can you just get off your damn YouTube thing and just read for like a minute and educate yourself? It's not a hard concept to understand. Shavasana again. I was going to meditate on one. It's like, because it drives me nuts. I'm just like, oh man. And I feel for I'm sure people at Olympus and Panasonic are probably like, what do we do? But Olympus did something pretty rad. They made a statement.
Definitely. So,
whereas Panasonic, and people know me from Panasonic. I like my Panasonic stuff and I like my Olympus stuff, but Panasonic put a press release out in a pretty cool lens. And they released a little camera on G95, which is a decent camera, but no one's talking about it. But they're like, we're committed to Micro Four Thirds. We're in Olympus when they did come out of the cave. They're like, actually, this is how committed we are, bitches. And they brought out the EM1X, which is a beast of a camera.
The monster.
It is like the Micro Four Thirds camera. If you want something that, I mean, what is it got like GPS in there, and you could freeze it, like you could like, I don't know, you could freeze it, you can mix cement with it, and you know, strap it onto. I mean, it's just like ridiculous. This camera. It's so like it's fast. It's got all these cool things in there, and very misunderstood camera, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah.
So very misunderstood. I
would say polarizing, even. Really.
Yes. And I think that was just awesome that Olympus did that, because that says something. That says something. It would have been like if Panasonic announced the GH6 at the same time as they announced their full frame cameras. That would have said something too. But the EM1X says something. It's like Olympus is like, we're not doing full frame. We get, and they even said it publicly, we get the image quality we want on a Micro Four Thirds, and you can. You can. That's the thing that people don't get, is like even the IQ of older Micro Four Thirds cameras, as we were discussing earlier, is still good enough for today. I mean, I shot a magazine cover in 2011 on an Olympus Pen Mini that I won in a contest from Olympus. This is how I came to Micro Four Thirds. Even before that, I shot 100 and something portraits at Art Basel. And I'm like, damn, this is great. Small camera, everyone's chill in front of the lens. I'm getting all these amazing street portraits.
That's what I love about it, for sure.
Yeah, people dropped their guard. I was like, and I put a red leather wrap. Actually, I didn't have it on when I did the Basel portraits. But then I went and shot magazine covers, multiples with the camera. And I would use the kit lens, and then I would use a 12mm 2.0 small lens as well. And then I would use a little 45-1.8 small lens. I think you can buy that lens for like $300. And I was making my living as a professional with this little Pen Mini $400 camera. You know, and I didn't get any pushback. Client was happy. It was Village Voice Media for all these shoots. I did other work too, but the main client was Village Voice Media. They were happy. They didn't care that I showed up with this tiny camera. What they were happy about was the results, and I was able to shoot faster and more accurately and get emotion from people, especially celebrities, that I was not able to get from before, or other photographers were not able to get it because they were relaxed in front of the camera. And it was fun. Like, oh, what's that red camera with that silver lens? And we talk about it, you know, and we would shoot it. And then the EM5 came out, which was, I think that was truly a revolutionary camera, in my opinion. Did you ever shoot with one?
No, actually, a good friend of mine had one. I ended up getting an EM1 a little bit after that, but I never really shot with the EM5.
So going from the Pen Mini to the EM5 was amazing, and I did well over 100 assignments, maybe close to 200 assignments with that camera before I broke. I just mishandled it. My fault, and I broke it. And Olympus replaced it. They were rad. You know, I shot celebrities and senators and authors, and it was great. And those files still look good. They still look good. And when you're sharing, you figure you're sharing where to smartphone, or I mean, I was shooting for print magazine covers. It was good enough for these companies to be like, yeah, we have no problem. I actually had the art director write me an email. I said, can you write that in an email? Because I'm going to put it up in a blog post called Overcoming Your Fears Using a Micro Four Thirds Camera in a Professional Environment. And he did. He was a cool dude. And I posted it, and it went viral.
Nice.
Right. That was like my breakout post, unintentionally viral. I just thought I was just really a believer into the system. So it's not like the image quality is not there. I think it's really the misconception, the misunderstanding by people that are geeking out on the tech and not actually using the cameras to make good photos. Because if you're making good photos, in one camera, you can do it on any other camera.
Totally.
The difference is these are just smaller cameras, and often you get more technology in them ahead of time. You know, and a funny thing is too, like I see people online, I'm going to buy medium format. I'm like, great, that's cool. No beef with you. If you're going to buy whatever you want. But I'm like, where's it going to end up? It's going to end up on Instagram. Right? I mean, let's be real. That's where it ends up. I've been preaching this for years. It ends up at the end of the day, it's like the toilet bowl of the dumpster of photos that ends up on Instagram. That's where it ends up. You're not shaking photos with your medium format camera, making giant prints all the time. The majority of them are ending up on Instagram. I'm a little harsh on Instagram, but they kind of deserve it. So it ends up on Instagram, and then you figure, God, instead of spending $12,000, I could spend, gosh, even $3,000 to get you a fantastic Micro Four Thirds system, and then take the rest of that money and go do some rad photo workshops, or just take a rad trip somewhere and get pictures you never would get otherwise.
Yep. I just, for me, it's the size of that system that makes it all possible. When I went to Cuba it's about a year and a half back now, and I brought my Panasonics with me because it's just, they melt away. I'm walking around, people aren't really expecting that I'm taking photos. They're just looking at me. I just look like the turisto. So I'm just kind of blending into the environment, and it's amazing. The images that I was able to come back with were I was just so pleased.
Would it have made a difference if you had brought your D800 with you?
I think yes, because I think I would have just been that, tourist with a big camera, which there was plenty of them there. I mean, you would see them, and it's just the guy with the gigantic 24-70 and the big, pro DSLR. And I was actually shooting primarily with the GM1, and, I could just kind of fade into the background. No one was paying any attention to me for the most part. And when I wanted to take a photo of somebody, they were much lighter. It was a much lighter experience because they just viewed me as not a threat. Whereas, the guy with the big camera stuffing the big DSLR in their face, it's kind of a different feel.
Indeed. And then would the picture quality, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if the picture quality be any different if you can't get the shot because people are noticing you or whatnot, right? I
had several people ask me, "Oh, did you shoot this with a full frame camera?" when I got back. So it's, it's all in how you handle it. It's all in the light. It's all in the scene. It's all in the composition. It's what you're doing with it. To me, it was so comfortable and just fluid that, I would not go down there with anything else, honestly.
It's not the size of the camera. It's how you use it.
Well,
sorry, I had to go there.
Yeah. Right.
You speaking of using, the cameras. And another thing I think that proves that the Micro Four Thirds is still alive and well and thriving is that, you can get into a system for less than a competing system. Like I think you can get a brand new Micro Four Thirds camera with a lens for like $400. In fact, I want to say I saw a Panasonic at that price, and I saw an Olympus at that price, and they're not bad cameras. The main difference between the less expensive cameras and the more expensive cameras are more of a robust, like a durable body, for like weather sealing. But those more expensive cameras don't even come with a built-in flash. So you still get a flash with the smaller cameras. Now I know some of the photo snobs are gonna be like, I don't want to pop a flash, but dude, if you need a flash and you got one built in, and you just hit a button,
and you can use it to trigger off-camera flashes.
Yeah. I mean, then what does it matter? Because what matters is the end result. So if you got some of these come with built-in flashes. They have IBIS built in, which IBIS is by far the best of Micro Four Thirds, because they have the size to move the sensor around and do all these other cool things and reduce heat, dispersion, all that stuff. And then of course we got to discuss the lenses. This is stuff that people don't talk about because it's not, it's easier to thrash on something than it is to be like, yo, this is great. The lenses are inspiring. I mean, you can buy really high quality lenses for not a lot of money. And of course you can buy bigger lenses and spend even more. But you can buy small lenses that are high quality for a few $100. I mean, magazine cover shooting razor sharp lenses for like a few $100. Primes, zooms. You can't do that with full frame. They cost more because they have to be bigger lenses. Like medium format costs even more. And then all the pros I've met that shoot exclusively with Micro Four Thirds, they love the system. In fact, we'll link to one in the show notes. But this guy was like a wedding photographer, I think husband and wife wedding photographer team in Dallas. They shoot with Olympus. They love it. It's good for their business. Their clients are happy with the images. Well, then who cares if it's not full frame or medium format or whatever? Who cares? The results are what matter. And if the clients are happy, he's happy, she's happy, it's in budget, it does what they need to do, then who cares?
Totally.
Who cares? YouTubers. Camera geeks.
That's about it.
That's really about it. It's people that are talking about what a camera may or may not be able to do versus people that are actually going out and saying, well, I'm going to show you what I can do with my camera or any camera. So, and then also the cross compatibility in the lens system. We mentioned the lens system, but the cross compatibility. So if you have Olympus, you can use it on Panasonic. You got Panasonic, you can use it on Olympus. There's another company, Z, I think they're Chinese. If you have one of those, DJI's got a lens. I mean, then there's all these third-party lenses, the adaptability of lenses. I actually had built lenses back some years ago. I took a Petzville projector lens. Somebody gave it to me. And I got an old Lens Baby. When I was in Oregon, I went to actually Lens Baby. I was taking a tour, and I'm like, do you got like I don't even know, I'm sure there's a technical name. Do you got like the thing where I spin it and it makes the lens go back and forth? It's like, yeah, but can I get it with the lens out? Like, yeah, what do you want it for? I'm like, well, from a Micro Four Thirds camera, like, well, we only have Nikon. I'm like, I'll adapt it. So they gave me the center part of the Lens Baby. I took this small lens and I stuffed it in there and with a little bit of gaff tape and made the tension right. And I had a Petzville lens for nothing. It was rad. And I actually shot work with it too. It was so fun. So the lens compatibility is like off the charts. I mean, there's so many different lenses. So there's a lot that says, hey, if you look at it with a sensible mind, the system's not dead. And like you'd said earlier, quite frankly, if just make pretend for like tomorrow, Olympus and Panasonic, like, yeah, we changed our minds, we're done. Then what happens to the cameras that you own?
They still work.
And for many, many years. So I think, and dude, I'm confident in my work. People are like, well, what do you got? Well, look at my work. Look at my work. Look at Chip's work. And like other YouTubers and stuff, we actually can back up what we're talking about, for God's sakes. How about that for a change? Dude, I'm not, I am the opposite of a clown minus the makeup. I know photo. I know it. I have the industry recognition and the awards to prove that this homie here knows photo. And I shave this shit. Look at that head. Shave it. Shave it.
Smooth,
dude. Smooth as ice. So let's kind of move on because I'm getting ornery now. I need to, damn. I just, this stuff works me up so much.
Deep breaths.
Just so everybody knows, Chip and I attempted this episode several times since Christmas.
Yes.
Since Christmas. And it's going to, by the time you guys are listening to this, we're recording this at the end of June. I think it'll be July. So I'm doing my best to keep my.
Every time I was like, nope, we can't put that out.
Yeah, Giulio's too angry. He's going off the deep end. But honestly, dude, it's like, I go on YouTube sometimes and I'm like, oh God, please spend the extra, it only takes 5 to 10 minutes to educate yourself before you start talking out your ass, people. Seriously. So the biggest reason, one of the biggest potential reasons why Micro Four Thirds could really excel, there's plenty, but I think is in a way computational photography. What do you think?
It's definitely been, they've been the forerunners of pretty much all of that, as far as, focus stacking in camera, doing, as in Olympus's case, they have like the live time where it kind of builds the image on the back of the camera. It's like magic watching the image come up. In Panasonic's case, they did all of the more motion-based stuff, which I know somebody here on the call that might know a few things about that, but being able to use that 4K as far as the 4K capture and being able to, 30 frames per second, and that was many, many years ago.
Yeah, and then IBIS, of course, and then I guess in pixel shift.
Oh yeah.
They were the first to do pixel shift, and then Pro Capture is amazing as well. It's on Olympus. It's kind of like, so Panasonic's got their 6K photo now, I want to say, or 4K maybe it is, where it's basically recording video. Then you can pull frames out of it and still keep your metadata. They're JPEGs, but you get a video file and a still, but they're JPEGs. But for certain types of application, it's fantastic. Olympus has Pro Capture, where essentially it's recording a constant loop of raw files, like at a ridiculous rate, like 30 frames a second, or
it's insane.
60 frames a second, actually. So it's recording a loop. So maybe you're trying to get this horse jumping over a barrier or something, and you hit the shutter release. Those types of images are really hard to nail. So then the other option is, motor drive, right? But often that's not fast enough. So Pro Capture, you got a whole grip of raw files, and you can pick the perfect one, and you nailed the shot. So great. So then there's your full frame dude over here who's like busting their ass trying to get that one shot, and you just went boof and you got it. It's stabilized. It's smaller. It's lighter. You backing killing you when you're done, and then you got but at the end of the day, you got the shot. You got the shot, and that's the kind of stuff that computational photography is doing in Micro Four Thirds. And then to a lesser extent, the most simplest form is the art filters. You can do all sorts of cool in-camera processing for still and video. That's a form of computational photography. So it comes to Micro Four Thirds first. The YouTubers don't really acknowledge this stuff, but we are here in what's like church, where we're giving our praise because it's helpful stuff. It's helpful stuff. If it puts you in, if it helps you communicate the vision in your mind in a more efficient way, in a way that leaves you self-expressed, in a way that leaves money in your pocket, and it's fun to do, then how is this a bad thing? How is the system dying when it does these things? Because it's not dying, because it's a bunch of BS. There are other things. You had mentioned something about a sensor technology that has yet to be incorporated in Micro Four Thirds.
Yeah, the backside illumination.
What is that exactly?
I'm not fully on top of the technical aspects of it, but it basically will allow a greater dynamic range to the sensor. So, as far as what I've looked into, that is right there. I think that'll be kind of the next phase of the 4/3 sensor.
And it will come to the system. It will come to the system, because right now, the latest Micro Four Thirds cameras will give you a better image than APS-C cameras, minus the Fuji X-Trans sensor. But the exception is true, as one who shoots a lot with Fuji as well. You have to use Capture One Pro to get the best out of that sensor. If you put it in Lightroom, you're going to get all sorts of weird artifacting. It's not ideal, and the colors and dynamic range is awful, to the point where it's like, if you are really fast with, you really are into Adobe Camera Raw, then and you're like Micro Four Thirds or Fuji, I would say get a Micro Four Thirds, because you're going to give you a really good image in there. Another way they can go, and I was pushing for this hard at Panasonic, didn't really work out, but I was asking for 16-bit color. So the thing is and it's not like Sega Genesis 16-bit color, because I'm sorry, dude, ain't no one ever going to be as cool as Altered Beast. You just ain't going to put Altered Beast in a camera, right? So it ain't Sega Genesis good, but 16-bit color is pretty damn good. So essentially, and I want to say, I think the Fuji medium format cameras, minus the brand new 100 megapixel one, have only been 14-bit color, not 16-bit.
Yep.
Basically, in 14-bit color is what a lot of Micro Four Thirds cameras have. That basically tells you how many steps you have in the gradation of a red, green, or blue pixel, because it's all RGB, right? And then you combine those in certain ways to get different colors and whatnot. So I don't know the exact amount of shades. It's a lot. When you go from 14-bit to 16-bit, in fact, I'm just going to look this up right now. Let's look up 14-bit color, and I bet it'll tell us how many shades, color depth. But with 16-bit color, I want to say it's like 32,000 shades per red, green, and blue. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. I was pulling up a Petapixel article. I'm like, best to steer back here, because that was a can of worms. But essentially, it's going from 14-bit, because for a while there, Micro Four Thirds was 12-bit color.
Yep.
And it was okay, but you kind of get into that little like oversaturated primary colors. That's where like the reds would get really weird. And this was not just Micro Four Thirds. DSLRs had 12-bit color, and I'm going to guess that there's probably cameras that are still made with 12-bit color built in, probably like the iPhone, because you could tell the colors look kind of cartoony, right? When you go to 14-bit, you got a lot more shades of that red or that green or that blue.
It's a smoother roll off, basically, of the color.
Yeah, so the end result is more dynamic range. So 16-bit color, that's a lot more processing involved. But Micro Four Thirds, because their bodies are able to dissipate heat better than other cameras, because they have smaller sensors, that's another benefit of a smaller sensor. They can do things like add in all this computational photography and not have your camera shut down, because cameras do shut down. If you've not experienced it, it kind of sucks. You're just like, sometimes you're not even using it. You're just wearing it and you're out in the sun in the summertime, and you go take a picture and you get like a weird temperature icon that blinks until the camera cools off. You don't really get that.
I've had that with the phone more than anything.
Okay, I've seen that with Canon. I've seen that with Sony cameras on set, where we'd put a camera up on a like a C-stand with a boom arm shooting down at a weird angle, and it's like we're in the Caribbean and it's just humid and the sun's just hitting it, and you're like, all right, action, and then you're like, the camera up there is not working. You're like, the DP's going up there and they're like having a freak out, and they're like, all right, cool. And they got to get an umbrella and put it over there and cool it off. The Micro Four Thirds cameras would just roll every time. I mean, even when I had a GH5 fives, and I took them to the Virgin Galactic Space Station in the middle of the desert in New Mexico, no worries. I didn't worry about them, like whatever, because it dissipate heat. So then the thing is, of course, the pipeline and all that stuff. But I'm not an engineer. But they can build that too, basically. You know, they buy a lot of that technology, and then they tweak it.
Totally.
So, I mean, these are ways that you could really build out the system. So there's so much more room for the system to grow. So people being like, oh, it's dead, they're just ignorant, to quote Michael Jackson. they're ignorant. They're just ignorant. Okay, I'm just going to breathe for a second.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at what they're doing with the stabilization and combining the sensor stabilization with the lens stabilization. I mean, they're getting, Olympus is what, 6 stops now?
7.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, people are standing there getting like second and a half exposures with that.
With Sync IS, people are doing like 10-second exposures or longer.
That is crazy.
I mean, it is. It's wild. Like I've seen it happen. I've seen people do it over and over. I was getting 2-second exposures with the original EM5. So like when I did all my work, I was like, well, I don't need a tripod anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, cool. I mean, so now you can get, 10 seconds and even longer if you're steady, and you can get it relatively sharp, because it's the difference between sharp and in focus. If it's in focus, it's usable. You don't have to see like the individual eyelashes. I mean, who cares about that when it's on Instagram or in most prints? So then that's a reality check. But when we geek out, we're like, the eyelashes in focus. It should be the eye. No one gives a damn. Okay, nope. On to the next thing. So when I started seeing all this hate based in ignorance online about Micro Four Thirds, I'm like, dude, I got to do something about this besides actually like, reclaiming my spot as the OG. Not that it was ever gone, but basically I started working on a set of Camera Raw, specifically Adobe Camera Raw and Lightroom CC and Classic and all that. Adobe Camera Raw presets that I built specifically for Micro Four Thirds. I've been working on this on and off for a while, and a few weeks ago, I saw somebody post some Micro Four Thirds hate, and I was like, dude, I had enough of this. All right, I'm gonna finish them up and release them. Yes.
Throw down a hammer.
Bam. Basically, it's this set. It's 4 profiles called a Dynapac Mark 1, and in Dynapac, you get 4 profiles. And let me, before I go any further than that, essentially what you're getting is more dynamic range than what you got before out of your same camera sensor. Okay, that means smoother roll off in the highlights, more shadow detail. At the same time, you're getting more accurate and more vibrant colors. It's pretty badass. I know the Micro Four Thirds system in and out very well, having many discussions and dinners and stuff with the engineers and shooting it a ton. I know this stuff very well. So it's basically a set of one of the tools I got coming out specifically for Micro Four Thirds. It kind of gives you a head start in your post-production workflow. And the thing is, a lot of photographers will often leave a camera system because they don't understand it. And this happens with any system, including Micro Four Thirds. Then you got these people being like, oh, you can get a better picture of this. And they're trying to understand how to work with their post-production pipeline with the photos. They may be like, I'm frustrated. They split. So because it's mainly a lack of understanding, not that your camera doesn't have the capabilities, or you have the capabilities. You got it, folks. The camera's got it. It's just the lack of understanding on how to get the most out of that file. So Dynamax is essentially me, Giulio, doing the initial color and tonality work. Okay, and then at that point you can apply your own creative vision. So I started off with a core profile called Dynamax, which basically is a very flat camera raw profile for specifically Micro Four Thirds. I don't think I'm going to release this for anything else. I just really wanted to geek out on Micro Four Thirds files, but essentially that gives you up to, I want to say around a stop. It may be a little more. I haven't released these yet as of this recording, but we'll see what you guys make out of it. But I think it's about a stop on my initial reactions. You have a slider. So if you want more dynamic range, you just slide it to the right. It's going to become a little bit flatter. So then you'll need to work with your curves and whatnot. And if you need less dynamic range, you just roll it back to the left. That's your initial profile, right? And based off that profile, I built 3 other profiles that have different types of colors. So there's Panachrome BC, which is more like a warm tone, slide film inspired color. Profile. It stands for big color, in case you're curious, or not big camera, but actually big color. But then there's Oneg Super, which is more of I was a big Konica film shooter back in the day. I loved Konica film, and Konica had these rich blues, and it made me think of Olympus. Olympus cameras do really good with the blues. And I said, wow, what if we can get that color, but even more depth into that image through the dynamic range and more realistic color. So I built Oneg Super for that. And then there's Micropan. I hope you guys like these names. I did a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, Micropan's a lot of fun. It's your classic black and white you can use with any photo. It's like that's a great starting point for any type of photo. Works good with low light images, works good with bright images. And I think that was it. So that's all 4. Then I'm given some presets that you can apply on top of the profile. And the presets allow you to kind of see a little bit deeper into how I think as a color artist. And then you could kind of tweak them from there. It'll be like vignettes and grain and sharpening and stuff. A lot of people don't know, but I started my career as an artist working for Fox Animation as a colorist working on movies. And the movie that I worked on that actually made it out was called Titan AE. And I was one of a handful of people that colored that entire film. And I had a test to get in there, and I tested and I got in, no problem, because I'm really just naturally good with color. So this is a really, really rad set for people to work with. You can, and I'm also giving you so I'm trying to think about this all off the top of my head, but I'm giving a tutorial video that goes over color theory basics, because that plays a lot into how you get good images. And then I'm going to go into how to install the profiles and presets on Lightroom CC. That's the web kind of version that synchronizes with your phone, Lightroom Classic, and Camera Raw. And the cool thing is, once you install it on CC, it synchronizes to your phone, or your smart or your tablet. So if you're in the field, you can download right onto your smartphone or tablet, and you can get the Dynapac profiles and presets on the go. It's pretty rad.
Damn, I might have to actually load CC on my computer.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, dude. I mean, seriously, it's pretty cool. I know you got to play with an early version, but
oh yeah, super rad.
I will actually have these done, finalized tomorrow. I just got to cut it off. I keep tweaking this stuff, and I'll get you a copy, but it's pretty rad. And the cool thing is, anything finding the photographer's vision with Dynapac Mark 1, you get updates for as long as I continue to develop these core profiles. But there are other ones in the works. I just wanted to get these core profiles out and get the feedback from the community. But I'm telling you, you can go on Small Camera Big Picture right now and check it out. And even, you can order it and get it right away, but you can see the results. It's legit. This is legit from somebody who knows the system really well. And then you can show your full frame fanboys what you're able to do with, the help of Dynamax and G and Chip and Small Camera and everything. And, tell them where to go to buy it when they sell their full frame system, to buy Micro Four Thirds, because that happens. All right. I feel like I'm in church and
that's it.
Just
Brother G.
Yeah, but check it out. I think by the time this comes out, the pre-order will be over. The pre-order had a discount. So if you want pre-orders and to save money and stuff on future releases, just sign up for PhotoFlow. We send it out every week, every Sunday. It's pretty rad newsletter for photographers, cool subject matter, and we talk about all sorts of rad stuff.
Not just covering Micro Four Thirds either. It's all about the vision and the photo world in general. Yeah,
that's the thing is, this episode is specifically for Micro Four Thirds, and Chip and I have a soft spot in our heart for Micro Four Thirds. It's a fun system. It's a misunderstanding. It is like me. I'm the OG of the mirrorless pros to be, go public and be like, dude, I switched back in 2010 or whatever. But Micro Four Thirds is the OG of the modern mirrorless camera. I'm not talking about Leica. Leica is its own Lenny Kravitz breed. This is it's the OG of the modern mirrorless, and it came from the 4/3 system. I shot my very first magazine cover with 4/3 with the E1, and prior to that I used the E10. But so I have I have a love for the format. But the most important thing, like Chip said, is vision. Vision is that will transcend any camera system. It'll transcend any trend in photography. When you're creating based on who you are, and you're doing that with confidence, it's amazing what will happen with your photography. Because so often people are just like, dude, they're just like, I got a nice camera now, and it's technically good, but it's boring. And I see that all the time. The lighting is crisp, it's perfect, it's in focus, but man, what a boring photo. And they know it's boring, and they don't know how to get around that. So Finding the Photographer's Vision is our online class that's in a group. We do it together. You can take it year round, but every quarter we have a series of small group coaching, because the idea is you want to do it frequently. So every quarter is a good repetition. So we get together for a month online, and we meet every week for an hour. We talk about the things that are coming up, because this is kind of a spiritual class. Things will come up in you, and you'll be like, dude, I'm angry, or I'm feeling this, or I'm feeling that. But we help you work through it, and you do it over and over, and you will start to see how your mind actually works in terms of photography. You will know the stuff that you like to shoot, and then you will know what you need to do to go out and make that happen. And then at that point, you're going to have to, I can't come to your house and do it for you. You're going to have to actually go out and do that. But we post our failures in the class, and that's failures are fine. It's a failure is a step forward, because you know that, okay, that didn't work, go forward. It's an amazing class. That's like my signature thing. I built this class off of tools that I learned or that I taught myself over years, and it's pretty rad. So I'm passionate about that too.
And I'll just say that it's for all skill levels, because that's an important thing, from the very beginner to somebody that's been shooting for a long time.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's how it was designed. I mean, especially in fact, if you were just starting out in photography, you may have an advantage over us photographers that have been doing it for a while, because you don't have to necessarily unlearn
bad habits.
Yeah. You can go in with the right habits and be like, oh, cool. And then because we do stuff like the artist comparison exercise, whereas often we compare ourselves to other people, we don't feel good. But this is an exercise where you learn how to compare yourself, the work you do, to master photographers that inspire you, and see that there's similarities, because there are. And then you can say someone asked me, what's your work like? Well, my work's a little like Martin Parr, with the slice of life of the Martin Parr makes, with the grittiness of Bob Richardson, or whatever it is your thing. And you really learn about who you are as an artist, and you do it again and again and again. You take it for as many times as you want. So it's rad. I'm excited because we're starting our coaching here in a week or so, and it's cool.
Should be a good time.
It will. So everybody, if you got questions or comments about this episode, just head on over to Small Camera Big Picture, find the episode. You can leave a comment, or you can just send us an email. Chip, where can people stalk you on Instagram?
Chip Riggs. That's my handle on Instagram, and it's also my website.
And we'll put that in the show notes as well. And then, of course, Small Camera Big Picture on Instagram is SCBP for smallcamerabigpicture.co. It'll also be in the show notes along with the YouTube channel. I could go on about this, as you know.
I have a feeling that this is only the beginning.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to get some official technical people on from the Micro Four Thirds companies, and we'll see.
Awesome.
Yeah, dude, thanks for coming on and joining me for another episode of Small Camera Big Picture.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. Adios.